July, the 17 sailors began the Sunday Times Golden Globe race in France. 2 made it back there for the finish. Only 3 are still racing. In 1968, 9 sailors set out to compete in the Sunday Times Golden Globe race, the first organized, solo, non-stop, round-the-world race. They were heading into the unknown, with no idea how their sailboats or their minds would cope with almost a year in isolation. Some boats broke down, forcing them out of the race. Sailors crumbled under the emotional strain. One competitor, Donald Crowhurst, attempted to fake his circumnavigation, and then simply disappeared, abandoning his boat in the Atlantic. Robin Knox-Johnston was the only finisher, returning on April 22, 1969, after 312 days at sea, to mark the race's 50th anniversary. Another Golden Globe race was planned. Organizers thought this one would be different, but the modern Golden Globe race has proved to be no easier. Last July, 17 36-foot sailboats departed from Les Sables-d'Olonne, France. 2 sailors have made it back there for the finish. Only 3 remain racing, 1 is still months from the finish line. Others abandoned their boats 15,000 miles away in the Indian Ocean and are still coming to terms with their dramatic ocean rescues. "We haven't had as many finishers as we thought," Don McIntyre, a founder of the race and a circumnavigator, said. The Golden Globe race was created to promote ocean sailing for the average sailor, in small boats with modest budgets. Competitors are not allowed to use electric autopilots and instead use wind vanes for self-steering as in the first Golden Globe. Only radio communication is allowed, sextants are used for navigation. Around 100 people have sailed solo, non-stop, round the world beneath the 3 Great Capes, the Cape of Good Hope in South Africa, Cape Leeuwin in Australia and Cape Horn in Chile, the standard course for a solo circumnavigation. Many of these sailors have competed in the Vendée Globe, a solo round-the-world race started in 1989. Unlike the high-speed, modern boats of the Vendée, which can outrun storms by sailing at speeds of 30 knots, the small, full-keeled Golden Globe boats are regularly overrun by depressions, especially in the Southern Ocean. McIntyre said the 36-foot sailboats use modern masts designed to handle the impact of heavy ocean waves. Yet several boats in the race have been rolled or dismasted, most in the Indian Ocean. Abhilash Tomi, an Indian Navy pilot, severely injured his back when his boat was rolled and dismasted halfway between the Cape of Good Hope and Australia, one of the most remote places on the planet. Another competitor was dismasted in the same storm, which had 70-knot winds and 45-foot waves. Susie Goodall was rescued in early December after her boat went end over end and dismasted 2,000 miles west of Cape Horn. With her boat flooded and no engine or electronics, she called for rescue and was lifted off her foundering boat by the crane of a passing cargo ship. Goodall has yet to talk publicly about her experience. "Susie was in a desperate situation," said McIntyre, who spoke with all the stricken sailors throughout the race to coordinate rescues. "She put her whole life into this. Then she's picked up by the hook of a crane, and everything leaves instantly." McIntyre said he had spoken to Tomi about his accident and rescue, but there were boundaries, it was too early. Mark Slatz, one of the 2 sailors who has finished, said that the storms seemed to have no end and that the competitors looked to one another for support, a luxury Knox-Johnston did not have in the first Golden Globe. "There was a real human aspect to the race," said Slatz, who tried to help advise Gregor McGuckin over the radio on handling his boat in large waves during a storm before McGuckin was dismasted days later. "We were really pulling ourselves through this together over the radio." McIntyre said many of the sailors were not mentally prepared for the isolation of the race. "These sailors are coming from a different world than in 1969, he said. "We are so used to being connected. This knocked some people out. It's an amazing race, and if you're not there for the right reasons, your mind will find a way to retire from the race." Those involved also said global weather patterns are producing stronger storms. "I don't want to hide behind bad luck, but the reality appears to be true, that the conditions in the Southern Ocean are changing and the weather is stronger," McIntyre said. Knox-Johnston, who now runs the Clipper Race, a round-the-world sailing race with stops for amateurs, said the effects of climate change could limit these types of races. "We know with the heating of water, the atmosphere becomes less stable and there are more storms," he said. "If we want people to cross oceans, we have to study this." Will things eventually be too unsafe weather-wise? Jean-Luc Van den Heede of France, who has competed in several round-the-world races, won the Golden Globe Trophy on January 29, finishing in 211 days 23 hours 12 minutes. At 73, he is the oldest person to complete the course solo and non-stop, taking the mantle from Knox-Johnston, who was 67 when he completed the Velix 5 Oceans race in 2007. Your mind is never the same after this, Van den Heede said in an interview the day he finished the race. You learn to be an optimist, to take life as it arrives. Alone you have plenty of time to think, to look at your life. You don't have time in the current life with pressures and meetings. Here you're your own master.